Good evening from the SSON Intelligent Automation 2017 conference in New Orleans. It's been NelsonHall's pleasure to chair the event, and I just wanted to share with you some of the principal themes that emerged from the discussions. The session started with a discussion of the impact of RPA on employment. And I think there's a fair to say there's a consensus that rule-based RPA has so far had minimal impact on levels of employment, and actually a modest impact just in upskilling some of the jobs involved, but nothing terribly fundamental at this stage. The real impact that everyone's talking about is really on the nature of employment, where the large-scale deployment of cognitive technology starts in a few years' time. The second theme, which was an interesting conclusion, I think, but one that's been building for some time, was that intelligent automation isn't about process and it isn't about technology, though clearly knowledge of both of those is required. But actually, the critical success factor is change management and partnering within the organisation. And that's really what it's all about. Indeed, there seemed to be an increasing rapprochement and partnering with IT. Noticed in previous events of this type, there's been a certain, let's say, arm's length relationship or occasionally hostility between the operations guys and the IT guys. I think there's an increasing realization on both sides that you actually need to work together from the beginning in order to get intelligent automation projects to be successful. And number of new tips here. So we really got beyond what's been said before in terms of getting IT tightly integrated into the RPA Centre of Excellence or governance group. And actually some tips on actually how do you find the right person to navigate what might be a very large corporate IT function. And what was working for some of the guys here was actually finding the person who was involved with the immediate applications and using the applications guy with IT, both to act as their champion within the IT organisation and actually to hunt out the right people and do a bit of change management and persuasion on their behalf. So that was a useful tip in terms of doing that. In terms of change management, it was again stressed that yes, while you need your champions at the top of the organisation and they're critical, you actually need ambassadors at all levels. And actually, if you use the staff who've actually been on the receiving end of one of the initial automations to talk to people elsewhere in the business and in operations, then that has actually much more impact than guys from the RPA COE trying to do that persuasion. And in terms of the types of people that you need, I think it was rapidly coming round to a sort of business systems analyst who understood technology, because you're looking for the developers, you're looking to combine people who've got both technology and that process expertise. Third point was a recognition that RPA wasn't especially an end in itself, but a forerunner and the first stage of digitalising the organisation. And here there was a fantastic breakout by City, absolutely great example of what can be done to potentially transform source to contract and procure to pay through digitalisation using combinations of RPA, machine learning and cognitive, chatbots, automated decisioning. And in particular, City were looking to incorporate contract discovery analytics, a supplier intelligence portal, mobile approval, and potentially, though they seem to have backed off on this one in the short term, even using blockchain for smart purchase order matching. And here it comes when you're starting to do those wider combinations and to do those new digital process models, it's really where design thinking starts to come into its own. And it's creating an innovation mindset exposing use of new technologies, developing digitalisation champions, and building that technology roadmap. The other point that goes well with the whole theme of digitalisation is, in the past, people used to not worry too much about the user experience or the customer experience for internal customers. What organisations like City are now realising that actually you have to make the user experience good if your internal clients are actually going to use these new technologies and new ways of working that you're putting in front of them. And here City were putting chatbots into the T&E process, and their experience so far on the pilot to date was the chatbots were great at answering T&E policy questions, but the more complex stuff still needed to be handled by people. So they were managing to take out about 74% of queries, but with the remaining 26%, the more complex stuff, which still needed people to handle that. So again, shifting the competence level of the people to high skill levels. So that's all for now. Good evening and goodbye from a slightly snowy New Orleans.